You get a message. Brilliant. Okay, well, firstly, just want to thank you all for coming along this morning. So as some of you know, what I do is a lot of what I do is around business development and personal growth. And basically it's about supporting business owners and helping them implement business skills into their business to help them grow their business. So as we've been talking over the last sort of couple of sessions, a lot of what I do is around the generation of new business, which is actually probably the hardest type of business to secure, but it's quite important. We've been looking at obviously prospecting a couple of weeks ago, and then the last session we did was on qualification. And if you want to view those videos, you can. And what I shall do is I shall see if I can just put a link in the chat here. So it doesn't work. So anyway, give that a miss. But there's what I'll do is I'll put a link in the chat at the end, which basically will take you to where the other videos can be viewed. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the next part of the sales process, which is basically the sort of where you start presenting your solution or you pitch or whatever. And this is about trying to create a compelling proposal that actually wins. So most of you will have seen this previously. This is obviously the sales funnel, which highlights the 6 stages of this typical sales process. And as I mentioned previously in the last presentation, qualification for me forms the basis of everything moving forwards. So when you qualify properly, you'll know exactly the challenges that your prospect faces and the reasons why they're talking to you and the solutions that they require. And that's really, really important because, like I say, it forms the basis for the solution and the pitching, the objection handling and the closing. And I just wanted to reiterate that because if you don't do that qualification part correctly, it makes the rest of the sales process a little bit more difficult. So I talk about there are 6 things really that fit within the sort of like the sales mix, if you like, and I call it the sales mix 6. So those are the 6 things, but there are specifically 4 that we're going to be really focusing upon. So the 4 elements really, firstly is client knowledge. So with client knowledge, do you know the industry? Do you know their challenges? Do you know their pain points? Do you know the solutions that they require? Now, a lot of this will have come out of the qualification process, but also if you're working with other people in the same industry or you're working with other people with the same sort of demographic or whatever, then that client knowledge, you can use the client knowledge that you have with other people that you're working, and you can also bring that into your conversation or bring that into your proposal as well. Product knowledge is something else that you need to have real knowledge on. Now, obviously, you're the expert in your product, so in theory, you should be the expert there. So you should have exceptional product knowledge, but it's the skill really is how you apply your products to the client. So it's how you can, if you can demonstrate how your products will work for them, that's where the real skill comes in with product knowledge. Then the next thing is sales skills. Are you asking the right questions? Are you listening? Are you presenting the solution in the right way? All of those things form the sales skills side of things. And that's obviously what we're going to be talking about today, is how you present your solution to the client. And then the last thing we look at is sales process. Are you following the correct methodology that works? So I wanted to give you that as an overview because all of the thing with the sales mix is everything all sort of like works together to help you to achieve the results that you're wanting to achieve. And all of those 6 things come in at various different points during the sales process side of things. So what we're talking about here is the solution. So what you're trying to do is we're going to be talking about solution selling. So what you're doing is your solution really needs to answer the client's problems and the pain that they've identified and you've identified within the qualification process. Your pitch needs to highlight those problems and how they will feel when the solution has been purchased. And the thing to remember here is one size doesn't fit all. And I actually mean that genuinely. If you want to make your proposal or your pitch become authentic, then you have to make it about that client. And one size doesn't fit all. And it's really around making sure that that's the situation. And remember, what you're doing with your problem is you're bridging the gap to the solution. Your solution bridges the gap of the problem that they've got. So that's what they're doing. And you're addressing essentially their individual concerns and needs. Now, like all things in sales, there is a methodology that we want to be operating on. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but with all things in sales, there is a methodology, and this is the solution selling methodology. So it's quite a simple principle. You get to know your customers, they understand your products and services, you identify the prospects' needs, you illustrate to your prospects what they're going to get. You present your value proposition, and then you close and maintain that relationship. And that's kind of the solution selling methodology. But what this presentation is about today is about actually creating compelling proposals that win. And that's what we're trying to do here. So it's about making a proposal that really, really works for the client, because if it works for them, then you're going to have a much more successful conversion rate, or a much higher conversion rate. So what a compelling proposal needs, the first thing it needs is it actually has to really talk directly to the client. You have to make it about the client. I can't stress that enough, because the minute you don't make it about them, it becomes very transactional. When you're making it about them, it's very personal, and it becomes almost an emotional purchasing decision rather than just a transactional decision. So you've spent a lot of time learning about the prospect's problems. You've really understood their problems and their pain points. And this is the real key here. What you need to do is you need to draw attention to the pain point. Now, what do I mean by a pain point? So if you think about any problem that your clients have, basically a pain point is the thing that sits underneath the problem. It's the thing that actually drives the problem. So for example, with me, I'll sometimes have clients come to me and they'll be talking about cash flow issues or something along those sorts of lines. Now, the cash flow isn't the main problem. The cash flow is a consequence. Well, the cash flow is something they're experiencing. But the main problem to them, the real pain point to them, is they've not got enough money to pay their bills. They don't have enough. They don't have enough cash in the business to pay their staff. They don't have enough cash in the business to pay themselves. If they can't afford to pay themselves, they may not be able to pay their rent or their mortgage. If they can't pay themselves, they might not have enough money to pay for their bills, put food on the table. And in some cases, you know, they might not have enough money to put this children through school fees, or whatever it might be, pay the children's school fees. There can be different levels of it, but actually the pain point isn't necessarily the cash flow. It's the consequence of not having cash in their business. Another pain point that I have with people is quite often the business owner is so stressed out, and they're so all consumed with their business that when they go home in the evening, they might be sat in the chair watching TV or something, or sat having a conversation with their partner, but actually they're not really there. And the partner complains about them being absent or whatever, and they're not in the room with them. And that's another real problem that they're having. So what's happening then is the business is affecting their personal relationships as well. So it's about really understanding that pain point and drilling down into it. And the thing is, what the client has done during the qualification process is they've told you an awful lot about what's important to them. They've told you why that's important as well. And if you drill down further, sometimes you can make assumptions from them and also ask questions. I have said to people in the past when they've turned around and said, you know, my business is all consuming. I've got all of these things going through my head the whole time. I go to sleep thinking about work. I wake up in the night thinking about work. I get up in the morning thinking about work. And I've then said to people, and how does your partner feel about that? And the responses often come back, well, they just feel I'm never there with them, and things. So people will actually tell you about their pain points as well. And sometimes you can make an assumption on what's being said, on what that happens. And what your proposal needs to do is it needs to show them that you completely understand them. You completely understand their challenges. You completely understand the consequences of those challenges if those challenges aren't resolved, and then the outcomes that they will get when they work with you. Remember, they've told you all of this, and when you paint that picture, that your solution will provide them with the outcome they need. And that's what it's about. It's about providing with the outcome they need, not the outcome they want. It's the outcome that they actually really, really need. So what you're doing is you're turning this very much into an emotional sell. So that's how you do it. So with the structure of a proposal, now a proposal really has 8 main components to it. So the first thing is it should be personalized. Now, some people will put a cover on the front of it, you know, proposal, for example, for Bucks Business Advice for John Smith Brewery or whatever it might be. But what you've got to do is, you know, you make that proposal, so you make it again about them. And sometimes some people give the proposal a title, um, and they will address within the title, they will actually address what it's done. So, for example, a proposal from Bucks Business Advice to John Smith Brewery to address the cash flow issues within the business, or something along those sorts of lines. But it's making it very, very specific about that, about what the result that the client is particularly looking to achieve. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to really address the challenges that are being faced. So you highlight these issues, and the consequences those issues could have should those problems not be addressed. So, for example, I've talked a bit about cash flow this morning, about the problems that happens, but people when they're in cash flow situations, they become extremely stressed. They become overwhelmed with the business. They can't see a way out. The business is all consuming. They're petrified that their business may fail, and should that happen, they could be in dire straits financially. Their security is often the real concern for them. It's not necessarily that the business is going to fail, it's the fact that their personal security might be affected. And that's the thing that is the real crux of the matter. Because often with business, people look at their business as a separate legal entity, which it is, and they look at it as a vehicle to providing the lifestyle they want, which it is. However, should that business fail and should they be financially tied within that business, then their financial security could be affected. So that's what it's about. It's about addressing those challenges they're facing and the outcome should those challenges not be addressed. The next thing that you're looking at is how you're going to solve the problem. So explain how you're going to solve the problem. Not give them the answers to what you're going to do, but just explain the process involved. So what I do is I tell my clients that we're going to deal firstly with the initial concern that they've got, and we're going to solve that and resolve that problem. And usually, from my perspective, that's a fairly straightforward, quick fix. Because there are certain things that you can see when you sit outside a business, you can look into the business and you can see those things and you can fix them quite quickly. And then what we do is I then say the next part of the process is we put a plan in place that provides the business owner with the skills to prevent them feeling like this again, because they don't want to go back to the position that they're currently in. They don't want to feel the stress, the pressure, the overwhelm that they're currently feeling. So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward and resolve that problem as well. And then they understand how that problem is going to be solved. I don't tell them how we do it. That's what they're paying for. That's the service that they're paying for. But I tell them that that's the process that we're going to be working in. Then you tell them the outcome that they're going to get. Now, remember, I've said to you, with solution selling, it's a very emotional way of selling. It's about providing an emotion and a feeling. So what you're doing is with the outcome, you're putting their fears to rest. You're dealing with their pain. And what you're doing is you're painting a picture of the life that they can have after this gets resolved. So it's about, for me again, it's about having somebody in their corner, someone who actually understands them, understands their fears, understands the stress and strain of running a business, and actually giving them the business skills that they'll be able to get out of trouble and be upskilled to drive their business forwards to achieve their life they want. And that's the key thing, to achieve the life they want, not the current life that they've got. So again, that's what you're doing, is you're painting that picture and you're showing them what the future really, really looks like for them. Once you've painted that picture, the next thing you want to really be talking about, because the first four stages of this are all about providing them with the solution and the emotional feeling that they're going to get when they get out of it. Then it comes to the cost or the investment. Now, I like to refer to it more as an investment. And the reason I talk about an investment is because an investment is a positive. It's something that's positive. It's something for their future. They're investing in themselves. They're investing in their business. When people talk about cost, it can seem quite negative. So, and the reason that the pricing part of this, that the proposal comes so far down the proposal, is what you're doing is you're burying it in the middle, so it's almost inconsequential. It's not that you're trying to hide what you're charging people. That's absolutely not what you're trying to do. But what you're doing is you're saying, oh yeah, and this is what this is the how it's going to impact in pricing and the investment you're going to be making. So what you're doing is you're making something that's almost, you're not making it about the price, you're making it about the process. And the price is the price is just happens to be the price that it's going to get the solution that they want. So that's the thing. So investment does come down quite a way within the proposal. Then the next thing that you want to be putting in is some social evidence. So what does a testimonial really say? So a testimonial basically for me says, and here are some clients who were so happy they kindly wrote me a testimonial about how bloody good I am. And that's what you should be thinking about with a testimonial. It's about, again, putting that in there. You can take this to the next level as well. And I've done this a number of times in the past, where I've actually put references in for people as well. So what can happen is people can then go and speak to somebody who's used your services previously. They're away then from the pressure of actually speaking to you and you telling them how great you are. But what you've got is you've got somebody who you've worked with who has achieved great results with you, who is then telling them how great you are. And happy clients, generally speaking, I found in the past, are always happy to speak to somebody else, and they're always happy to sing your praises. So that's something that's worth really, really considering. And the other thing to think about as well is how many of your competitors, if you're up against other people, how many of your competitors would be willing to do that? How many of your competitors would let their prospects speak to their clients? Probably not very many. And the reason behind that is because they don't have control over what's being said. But if you know that particular client very, very well, if you've got a great relationship with that client and you had a brilliant relationship with them, they certainly won't be slagging you off. They want you to succeed and they will want you to do well. So that's something else that you can do. So it's putting that social proof in there is really, really important. It's important also as well that you put a little bit of information in about yourself. But remember, the proposal isn't about you. And the reason this comes so far down in the structure of the proposal is it needs to be relatively succinct. It's not about you, but it's about your knowledge and your experience and your credibility. So what you're doing is you're just putting in that you've got 30 years experience or however long it is, or whatever it is in working in this field, and you can put your own sort of maybe a case study or something that's similar in there, but something that's fairly short and succinct that basically gives them the reassurance that you're very, very good at what you do. And then the last thing is the next steps. What's the next part of the process? Now, some people call this a call to action. I prefer to call this as next steps, because what you're doing is you're almost making an assumption here that essentially what's happening is the job is going to happen, and these are the next steps of the process. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they will send a proposal off on email, and the proposal will just go off, and then they'll leave it a couple of weeks, and then they'll give the person that they're trying to sell to a call back or whatever. But that's leaving too much up to chance. So the delivery of the proposal is really, really quite important. If you are able to present the proposal to them either directly or face to face through a video conference. Now, the reason I say that is because it shows a number of different things. Firstly, it proves you're willing to give them time, and you're willing to give them more time, and you're taking their problems and challenges seriously, and you're putting a proposal together to do that. Secondly, you're actually able to present the proposal in a way that it can't be misrepresented by somebody. So if there is a secondary decision maker that needs to be involved, and the person that you've been speaking to is presenting the solution to them, or they're just putting the proposal on their desk and leaving it to them, there's a fair amount that can be led to misrepresentation. And what it does is if you're actually able to present it on the call, then you can avoid that misrepresentation. You're also able to gauge your reaction. Now, we've all heard the statistic that 7% of communication is verbal, 93% of it is in other forms. What you're able to do here is you're able to read body language. As you're presenting something, you're able to read the body language of what's going on and see how people are taking it. and you can answer any questions or objections that may arise at that particular moment in time directly there and then, rather than leave the proposal on someone's desk and they sit there and they read it and then they go away and then they think about some objections and then you call them up. And what you're doing there is you're just stretching the sales process out. However, people know their objections fairly quickly straight off the bat. So what you're able to do here is you're able to deal with those as they arise directly there and then. So A, it speeds the whole sales process up. And secondly, you're able to sort of deal with issues straight away. And the most important thing is, if you're selling to a business, for example, that has multiple owners, or you're not necessarily speaking to the sole decision maker within a business, what you're able to do when you do this is you're able to get both of the decision makers or all of the decision makers on the call or in the one room at the same time. And that's a really, really useful tool, because people get to connect with you as well. It might be the first interaction that you have with one of the decision makers, but they're able to see you're genuine, they're able to see your credibility, they're able to see the various other things because you're able to present yourself in such a way. So that's something that's really quite important. And finally, what you do is you can then email them a copy of the proposal. Once you've done that verbal delivery or that face-to-face delivery, you can email them a copy of the proposal, and you can say to them, I'll send you a copy of the proposal through. I'll include my terms and conditions on there, and I'll also send a contract through with it. This means your proposal isn't going to be misinterpreted in any kind of way. You've presented it to them properly, and then the next steps are, fill out the contract and we'll start, or sign the contract and we'll start. And that's the thing that you're doing. So you're speeding that side of that process up. I promise you, if you can deliver your proposal face to face to somebody, you will have much, much more success than just sending somebody a document. And that's the thing. So that basically concludes the presentation in that respect. I was just wondering, has there anybody got any questions about that? Feel free to ask questions if you don't want to.
It all makes sense. Thank you.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, it's good that it makes sense, Maritza. I'm pleased about that. So a little bit about me. So I've got, the one thing that I do is I work with people on a one-to-one basis, as some of you know. And I also, the other thing that I do is that's about working with people to help them grow their business, people who've gone through the startup phase and they're in that business growth phase. And the second thing that I'm doing today, is the first day that I'm announcing it, is this. So I'm in the process at the moment of creating something called Business Boost Academy, which is going to be an education and networking group coaching platform that's launching in January. There's going to be educational videos on there. There's going to be networking on there with other members. There's going to be podcasts from experts. There's going to be expert drop-in sessions. There's going to be there's going to be coaching drop-in sessions and various other things as well, and plenty of business resources that are going to be on there. And I'm in the process of creating that. And you are the first people who are sort of hearing about this officially for the first time. So it's targeted at micro business owners and sole traders, and to give them really the support that they need. And what I'm doing is I'm offering off a 50% lifetime deal to those people who have been on the webinars. So let me know if you'd like to take advantage of that. And also the other thing that I'm going to be doing as well is, there will be a way that you can earn free membership by, basically, if every time you introduce somebody who signs up, and they sign up for a year, what I will do is I'll give you a free month. And if you manage to get 10 people to sign up, then I'll give you a free year. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing with that. I'm really kind of excited about it, because actually I've got a lot to say, and I think there's a lot of support that's required out there. So that's something that I'm working on now. And it just leaves me to leave my contact details up there. So if you need to get hold of me, that's my email address, and that is my mobile telephone number. And I shall just stop the recording there. Hopefully stop recording. There we go.